Hello there, good evening everyone. This is Dari on WorldStreams Radio. Thank you to our listeners from all around the world for joining us tonight. To learn more about WorldStreams Radio, visit our website, worldstreams.org. You can also find us now on Facebook at facebook.com/WorldStreams. Our guest tonight is Sulaiman Wasty. Sulaiman Wasty has lived a culturally nomadic life. He was born in Pakistan, attended Irish Catholic schools, spent growing up years in Turkey, and has traveled extensively throughout the Middle East. Dr. Wasty is a visiting professor at numerous academic institutions and is affiliated with several progressive think tanks in the U.S. He's also a member of the Fabian Society that founded London School of Economics and Political Science. Hello, Saeed. Hello and welcome, Dr. Wasty. It's a pleasure to have you with us on WorldStreams tonight.
Well, hello,
Thank you,
Dari.
and
Thank you. Good evening to everyone, and thank you for joining us, to our listeners from around the world, and good evening to you, Sulaiman Wasty. Thank you for being with us tonight. Quite a resume you have here, Mr. Wasty, what Dari mentioned here. How did you manage to going through that nomadic life, starting out in Pakistan and how did that affect you as a person?
Saeed, first of all, let me thank you very much. And to Dari, it's an honor and a privilege to be a guest on your program. I've heard enormous good things about WorldStreams.org, and it's my pleasure to respond to your questions. It's been a long journey throughout. My last name, Wasit, itself is Wasty, comes from a governorate in Iraq, which is called Wasit. So my forefathers came from that part of the Arab word. Then I was born in Lahore, Pakistan. Mm-hmm. And then I went to Convent of Sacred Heart, St. Anthony's High School. And then my father was a scholar of history of medicine, especially the Islamic contribution to the history of medicine. So as a child, at the age of 11, I traveled with him from Damascus to Jerusalem to Baghdad even to the birthplace of the Eastern system of medicine, which was Kos in Athens, Greece. And then he was a visiting professor at University of Istanbul and Mashhad and Athens. So having gone there, so it was a very good training for myself. I'm the youngest of 6 children. And then having grown up in Turkey, then I went to school in London. I could have gone to Oxford universities, but I found LSE to be much closer to what my thinking and my upbringing brought along. And from there, I came to the U.S. for my PhD at Johns Hopkins University and then upstate New York at Cornell. So I've been now in Washington, D.C. for the last 30 years, except for a few years. I went back and forth to Pakistan, and I served about 20 years at the World Bank. And then I have a little company of my own, and we are a nice group of people, and I'll tell you more about it. So this has been a snapshot of where I come from.
Right. And so you're president of Sharakpur, which is headquartered in Washington, D.C. Tell us a little bit about your organization.
All right. Sharakpur itself the name comes from a Sufi tradition of Mevlana Rumi in Konya, Turkey. So, and that's why when people ask me why didn't I name the company as USA International or something, I said if President Obama didn't change his name, why should I not defer to my old tradition of spirituality? And that's the Sharakpur itself it's a small company. It's what they call small disadvantaged business. We are about 16 people, a group of 16 principals, and we have a very distinguished panel of advisors from former Democratic congressmen to people who from academia. It deals with transparency, accountability, and financial integrity. I mean, this is we started off by saying think of it as a government accountability office or projects for government oversight. So we try to keep things in check. And the reason I wanted to have a company of my own was to have the independence and to speak the mind rather than dealing with national bureaucracies or international organizations. So this is what the background of Sharakpur is. And you have the website sharakpur.com. It's spelled SHARAKPUR.com. And you will see what we try to do. We try to advise governments and private entities which want to deal with compliance with anti-corruption and governance and accountability and transparency, and and so we also keep the international organizations in check. So we are like a watchdog agencies. We make enemies too.
Yeah. So what interested you in this particular area, in transparency in particular? Why not something else?
Said, it was essentially, when you come deal with financial integrity, and when you see most of my career has been in international economic development. LSE, my undergraduate was in international relations, political science, and economics. Then I moved to international economics and then planning. And I had the privilege and honor to work with distinguished professors. So when I was working for national government and international organizations, when I saw their transactions, which was very much in a mode of throwing money, good money at bad projects, and looking at that aspect was that it's not helping international economic development. And when you see all these the turmoil going on around the world, which is a product of essentially money being squandered and being hijacked by all these governments and administrations and not reaching the beneficiaries and the poor. So it's essentially was dealing with coming from a Fabian socialist tradition, was helping the poor and the downtrodden, and the state's responsibility being helping, giving equal opportunity to the people, and that's why my democratic traditions come along. So this is the background for transparency.
Right. At one point also, you've served as special assistant to the finance minister of Pakistan, correct?
Yes.
Now, when you're talking about transparency here, could you give us a picture of what is going on in the world currently? This is really a big question, but probably a snapshot of some of the most serious problems currently facing different governments and the remedies that are being proposed in place, and who is proposing these remedies?
Said, it's a tough question, because what happens is that when we talk about these governments, and we are talking about these kleptocracy, which is we talk about privatizing governments and services and public services, but most of the money, if you look around the world, it never reaches the intended beneficiaries. I mean, you have people all around the world. You have these leaders who, pocketing their own money. I mean, when you look at the ex-president of Egypt with $70 billion of net worth, and when you look at other developing countries and the heads of states and the heads of governments, you don't see any focus on. It's a shame. I mean, I live in Washington, D.C., for example, and it's a shame when you see the White House, and in front of the White House you have the Lafayette Square, and you have people homeless over there. And this is a state has a moral, legal, social responsibility toward the people who do not have an opportunity to be lifted from the bootstraps. Now, when I was working with the Minister for Finance and Planning, and he was a very distinguished gentleman, the late Minister Mahbubul Haq, he actually developed the Human Development Report at UNDP. And we were essentially questioning, and I mean, he himself also questioned how much military expenditures were being spent between India and Pakistan, and how, what if that could be translated into helping the poor of those countries and the literacy rate. And it's a shame that, even countries like yours, Morocco, Algeria, half the population is illiterate.